In Thailand, you can find many statues of Buddha. Small statues, big statues, and they're all made of various materials. There's one particular statue that stands 10 feet tall and is made out of clay. This statue was being moved from a Buddhist monastery to a temple in Bangkok, and while it was being moved, one of the workers noticed that there was a crack in the skull, and he decided to investigate further, and he used his chisel and he dug a little deeper and he saw something shiny. So he decided to investigate even more, and to his surprise, this statue was made of solid gold. This was only in the 1950s, and its true value had been lost for centuries. It was thought that years ago, during the Burmese invasions, that monks decided to cover the statue with clay to hide its true value, its true identity. And now, years later, it was found, and the true value is $240 million. This is a lot like our lives because we cover ourselves with these layers, almost as if that statue being covered by clay. It represents our doubts, our fears, societal expectations, all of these layers that we put upon ourselves, and our true worth can be hidden and not recognized for a while. But the thing is that it's always been there, it just isn't always realized. There are two lenses that we use in life. Our first is our inherent lens, and this goes back to our inherent worth, that solid gold center. And when we are seeing life through our inherent lens, we see our true value, our true worth, which doesn't increase, it doesn't decrease, it's the same over time. We were born with it, and when we see ourselves through that inherent lens, we are remembering our true worth, our true identity that sometimes does get covered. When we are using our derived lens, we are seeing ourselves with those layers. And sometimes we begin to identify with those layers even though they're not our true self. Again, this is our derived lens. It's circumstantial. It's based on other people's opinions of us. And we have no business believing them when our true nature is solid gold. I want you to think for a moment, close your eyes, and think about your true worth, who you truly are on the inside, your identity. It isn't always easy to articulate, but that's what I talk about in my book, Let Yourself Bloom. I help moms maintain their identity, specifically through motherhood, to remind them that they are that solid gold. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a cheerleader. I was 12 years old, and at that time you didn't need a tryout, you could just be on the team. And I really loved the outfit and the cheers and the dances, but I didn't really feel like I belonged. One day I was conveying this to my coach, and she looked at me and she thought for a moment, and she said, "Well, we need nice cheerleaders too." It was as if she was affirming every doubt that I had about my appearance, that I wasn't the beautiful one, I wasn't as pretty as the other girls, and that my worth was only in being the nice one. Fortunately, over years of self-definition and choice, I was able to peel back that layer of uncertainty and disbelief and know that nobody gets to decide who I am. I get to decide what I want to be, what I want to do, and look at myself through that inherent lens. Later in high school, I took the dreaded ACT, many of you know, a standardized test to prepare to get into college. And I had looked up the requirements for a certain scholarship that would allow me to have over half the tuition paid for. This sounded like a great idea, and I was so excited to get this score so that I could pay for college myself and not have to work or worry about finances during college. Well, I took it the first time, and not really knowing what to expect, I got my score back, and I wasn't as happy with it, and it wasn't quite what I needed, so I studied again. And I took it again, and again, and again. I took it 5 times, and each time I took it, more layers of fear built up, layers of just, am I good enough? All my friends were getting these higher scores. Could I do this? And was I worth the score? Could I prove my worth by this score? And so finally on the 5th try, I got my score that I needed and was able to pay for college. But this wasn't just about the money. It was more about peeling back those layers of insecurity so that I could prove that I had the grit, I had the perseverance, and I could really get anything I wanted to achieve. I don't really take no for an answer, and growing up, I'm sure this gave my mom so much grief, but now it's my greatest superpower. I say yes to myself and I get what I want. I've always wanted a tattoo from the moment I can remember, but because of society and expectations and religious doctrine, I was too worried to get one, and I wouldn't even draw on myself because I thought that was a sin. But fast forward to 2024, this was my year. I told myself I was going to do it, and despite hesitation and the fears of others, I was able to do it. I chose to do it when I finished my book, Let Yourself Bloom. I finished it in April, and that's another experience, but I wrote my book in a week. And so the last day of that author adventure, we were driving back to the airport, and the driver, my friend and publisher, was taking us there, and I proposed a detour. I said, hey, let's go to this tattoo shop. I've been thinking about this. It goes with my book. It's gonna be a great way to symbolize this big step in my life and just to say yes to myself. Well, all sorts of things were bubbling up for her with her layers of worrying about what other people would think, or just, not being sure of it herself. And so she asked me, she's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I told her, you can drop me off here and I will walk. I am going to go and do this. And so I went inside. She worked through her things in the car and then joined us later. But this tattoo on my arm, it says become. It's my favorite word in the English language. And it just symbolizes so much of our potential and remembering to become that person that we were always meant to be, with that worth that was always there, and to just not back down when others might hesitate or question your choices. Say yes to yourself. After my second child was born, the pregnancy weight didn't come off as easily as it had with the first. And so I really wanted to get in shape, get fit, and to lose the weight that I had gained with that child. And I told myself, I plan to have more children, but I don't want to wait until I have all of them to get fit. I want to do that now. And so I hired a personal trainer and I lost 50 pounds. It was a very big accomplishment. I was proud of myself, and I thought, okay, I can replicate this. I can do this with each child. And then the real challenge came when I had my third child. It was a complicated pregnancy, and I had diastasis recti afterwards, and I didn't really get healing right away, so I wasn't able to exercise the way I was used to, with strength training and increasing my protein and all of those types of things. So that was the real moment when I had to ask myself, am I still worthy? Am I still going to love myself even though I can't lose the weight that I did before? And challenges and adversity have a way of revealing those layers and our true character and what really needs to come through. As we shed those layers, we can get back to our core value, our core worth, our identity. Growing up, and even in the past few years, I would always base my worth on achievement, how much I could get done in a day. I would pile things on my to-do list and just work through it all. Whenever I had free time, I would pile on more. And it took me a long time, and I'm still working through it, to realize that my worth is in being, not doing. Because I've always been like a kid in a candy store. I just want to try all the things. I want to do it all, eat it all. But just like a diet of candy isn't sustainable, a life filled with all the yeses is not sustainable. I ended up overwhelmed and depleted, exhausted, and I just had to sit with my worth and and realize that I was worthy just being. Sometimes when we say no, there is a better yes that's coming, but we don't always realize that when we're saying no. It's hard to say no because it isn't always choosing from the good and the bad, it's choosing from the good and the good. There's so many good things, but what I realized was that I was spreading myself too thin. I was getting breadth but not depth in so many different areas and categories and relationships. And when we spread ourselves too thin, we are diluting our influence for good. When people look at my book journey and they say, wow, you wrote your book in a week? I have to remind them that it was an 8-year journey. It was years of peeling off those layers of disbelief, doubt, insecurity, fear, all of the what ifs. But like I said with my tattoo, 2024 was my year. I love to plan my next year's goals around this time of year, October, November. My birthday's in November, so that helps. But this is always when I just feel a reset, maybe it's the season change. And so last year at this time, I said, I'm going to write a book in 2024. 2 weeks into January, I met my publisher and signed a contract, and we wrote it. It was published in August, Let Yourself Bloom. And I was just so proud for finally taking that step. And a lot of us wait. We wait until the perfect moment or until we have everything in line to do the thing. But really, we have to take the step first, and then it will fall into place. Just like our identity and core value was always there, our worth, our dreams, our decisions, they're always there. They're just waiting for us to claim them, to realize them, and to embrace them. I want you to take a moment and close your eyes and think of a dream that you've been having, whether it's small, big, just something that you want to accomplish in the next year. Now I want you to think about those layers. What fears, expectations, doubts are getting in the way? Every day we have a choice to peel back those layers and to reveal what's truly there, or to leave those layers there and trap us. Challenges aren't walls. They are invitations to uncover your strength. And it's important to align your choices with your core identity, with who you really want to be. Build a life filled with less, just like I did. Less pressure, less doubt, less fear, and with more of what truly matters, because you are golden.